and welcome to my channel. This is Makeup by Mackenzie and I'm Mackenzie, obviously. Today on Makeup 101 we're going to be talking about blush and bronzer. So if you have never used these before or you just want to know a little bit more about them, then this video is for you. So without any further ado, let's play with some makeup, shall we? First off, I want to mention that blush and bronzer typically come in powder or cream formats. I find that for beginners, powder is a lot easier to use than cream. They do give you different finishes or different levels of pigment, and for that reason I find that powders tend to be a lot easier to use. That being said, a quick tip if you decide that you want to try out cream, blushes, or bronzers is that you need to apply them before you set your foundation with setting powder. If you apply them over the top of setting powder, you're going to get something that's patchy, it's going to start pulling up your foundation, it's gonna look like a mess. So it's better to apply any creams before you set your face with a setting powder. If you're doing a powder, you can either apply it before or after setting your face with setting powder. Alright, so let's jump right into blush. What is blush? Blush is typically a red or a pink pigment that is applied to the face to give the face a more youthful appearance and to accentuate the cheekbones. For both blush and bronzer, when you put foundation and concealer on your face, you're basically taking away any color that is on your face. So you're going to look really pale, really flat, really dead looking. And so blush and bronzer are both meant to kind of bring back color to your face. And blush gives a very healthy, very youthful kind of flush to the face. It creates kind of a glow that is very natural. How to pick out a blush? Well, blushes come in both matte and in shimmery formats, and that's kind of based on your personal preference. Do you want something that's going to give you a little bit more of a luminous, dewy kind of look, or do you want something that's going to be more matte? I have a few of each, and I use them all interchangeably. I think it goes based on the look that you're going for. Now let's talk about colors. Blushes typically come in warm or cool toned colors, so that just means that the undertone is either blue or it's a little bit more orange or red. To the undertone. That doesn't mean it's going to be like bright red or it's going to be like bright blue. It just means that that is the color that it is the base for the pink. For example, this pink from Milani is a cool toned pink. It almost has a colder sort of undertone to it. Whereas if you're looking at this one, you can tell it's a lot warmer. So you see how this one feels a lot colder than this one? This one has a warmer undertone to it, whereas this one has a little bit more of a cooler undertone. If you like wearing a lot of blues, you're wearing a lot of grays, wearing colder purples, then a cool undertone blush is probably going to look better on you. If you find that you like warm tones on your skin, like if you like to wear a lot of warm pinks or yellows or oranges or reds, then a warmer undertoned blush is going to look great on you. However, I find that a lot of different colors, a lot of different undertones work on a lot of different people. It's kind of trial and error, unfortunately, that you just gotta kind of try a bunch and see which ones you like. Now, there are kind of a few theories on the shades that look best on light, medium, and dark skin tones. Lighter skin tones do better with light pinks, peaches, or corals, whereas medium skin tones do better with bright pinks, darker peaches, and bronzy pinks. And then dark skin tones tend to do better with magentas, oranges, or purples even. However, again, I find that a lot of different shades and hues of blushes work really well on a lot of different skin tones. So if you go to the store and you see a color that you really like, why not try it? It especially helps to go to stores where you can swatch different blushes and try them on your skin, see if you like the way they look on your skin tone before buying them. That's very helpful. So a store like Ulta or Sephora would have something like that. Now, blushes are typically applied with a fluffy brush. So what does that mean? It basically just means a brush that is not tightly compact, that has a lot of bristles, and It doesn't necessarily need to be big, but it's definitely bigger than your average eyeshadow brush. So my favorite brush is something like this one. This is the e.l.f. blush brush. It's not super tightly compact, but it's not very big either. I do know people who apply blush with things like that, and that works. I personally like to do a smaller brush so that I have a little bit more control over where it goes. I find that that works better with my face shape. It's a lot of just trying out new things and kind of playing around with the different shapes and brush styles that work for you. Bronzer is typically a warm-toned brown that is used to give warmth back to the face. So basically, this is not the same thing as contour. Contour is meant to create shadows, not to warm up the face. So bronzer is a little bit more like blush, in that it is meant to kind of bring back life to your face. But you can fake contour with bronzer, but you should know that they're not the same thing. Bronzers, like blushes, both have warm and cool tones as well. And that's a matter of personal preference. I find that cool toned bronzers are ones that I prefer. You really can't go wrong either way. I do find that warmer tones tend to err on the orangey side, especially if you accidentally apply a little bit too much. Whereas cool tones, you're a little bit safer. They tend to go more brown rather than orange if you apply too much, but either way I think you can kind of, you wouldn't go wrong picking either one. They also come in both shimmery and matte formulas as well, and I would avoid shimmery bronzers simply because when you have shimmery bronzer, it is very easy to almost apply too much shimmer and you're going to end up with a very sparkly face. Whereas when you have a matte bronzer, if you want shimmer, if you want sparkles, you don't get it from your bronzer, but you can easily get it from blush or from highlighter. Basically, it's very easy to apply too much bronzer to the face, and it is easier to take away matte bronzers than it is to take away shimmery bronzers, because no matter what you do, you're going to be left with a ton of shimmer on your face. But when you have a matte bronzer, it's easy to take away just the pigment and you're not left with any sort of shimmer on your face. And I'll explain how to do that a little bit later. So I would avoid shimmery formulas and go with matte formulas when it comes to bronzers. You want your bronzer to be no more than 2 shades darker than your skin tone. So it's a very good idea to go to a store where you can swatch your bronzer to make sure that you are getting one that isn't too dark for your skin tone. Alright, now let's go ahead and start talking about application of bronzer. And very much like blush, you're going to want a fluffy brush. And I do know people who use brushes like this, a big fluffy brush, to apply their bronzer. But then I also know people who use something like this, or even something like the blush brush I showed you earlier. I personally really like using an angled. You don't want one that's super tightly compact, though. You want something that's going to diffuse the makeup very easily. So these are nice and fluffy angled brushes, but I find that they kind of help me almost fake contour a little bit, because you would use these for a powder contour, but using them for a bronzer kind of helps you to fake the contour while also blending the bronzer appropriately. I like to apply my bronzer before I apply blush because I find that the blush kind of helps to tie everything in at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my bronzer. Today I'm going to use the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. And basically when you're applying bronzer, you can kind of use the rule of the 3. So basically you're applying it almost in a 3 shape on your face. You're applying it in places where the sun will naturally hit your face and where your face would naturally tan. So you're going to apply it kind of to the temple area, you're going to apply it just below the cheek, and then you're going to apply it along the jawline. So I always like to start with the right below the cheekbone, and you really are going, you feel where your cheekbone is, you really are going right below it. So my cheekbone is here, I'm going right there. And I like it, you want your bronzer to be concentrated more at the base here almost by your ear. So you start there and then blend downwards, and you go in circular motions like that until you have it blended. And you're blending upwards, you're not blending downwards, you're blending upwards, almost over where you would put the blush. Like that. Now the next place is your temples, and your temples are right here, but you're not really going to want to apply bronzer right there. That's where you would put contour. You're going to want to put bronzer more where the sun is naturally going to hit your face. So if you've got the temple here, you have the bone of your skull here, and you want to apply it there, and you want to start blending it towards the center of your forehead. You're not going to cover your whole forehead, but blending it in that direction is where you should go. And I like to do both circular motions and kind of back and forth motions to blend it out. And then you'll go down towards the temple, and you can start to kind of bridge this gap. And you don't have to have this gap completely bridged, but blending those two together almost kind of creates a cohesive look. So basically you're blending in towards the center of the forehead and then down towards the cheekbone. Now the last place you're going to put your bronzer is along your jawline. And again, you're going to start towards the back of your jaw and blend it forwards. And then again, using those circular motions to kind of blend it upwards. Now you're not putting it under your jaw, you're putting it right along your jawline here. And you're blending it upwards, just like that. I have quite a large forehead, and when I apply bronzer here, it almost creates the illusion of it being taller. So I like to add a little bit of a contouring technique. Normally when you contour, you would put some of your contour along your hairline to contour your forehead. So I like to do that when I'm doing bronzer as well, if I'm not doing contour, just to kind of keep my forehead from looking like too narrow and long and tall. So we are nice and bronzed. Now we're going to apply some blush. And today I'm going to use the Milani Baked Blush in the shade Dolce Pink. And I'm going to take my e.l.f. blush brush. Just get that in there. Here you're going to apply it directly on your cheekbone here. So if you feel where your cheekbone is, and if you smile, you'll find it. This round area right here is the apple of your cheek. So if you smile, you'll find the apple of your cheek, and you will find your cheekbone here. And what you want to do is you want to start at the apple of your cheek and do big circular motions, sweeping it up along your cheekbone. So smile, start here, and start sweeping it up along your cheekbone. Just like that. And you want to do this, you do not want to apply it just to the apples of your cheeks here, because then you're going to get a very unnatural flush. It's going to look a lot like a Raggedy Ann doll. What you want is to accentuate your cheekbones and create a more natural flush. And a more natural flush goes along your face the way it goes along your cheekbone, like this. And then you just keep doing those circular motions to blend it out. Just like that. Now what happens if you apply too much blush or too much bronzer? How do you fix it? That's fairly easy. You take the same brush that you use to apply your setting powder, and you just simply go over where you have applied too much. And you don't have to add more setting powder onto the brush, but you can if you want to, especially if you really added a lot. You take that and you go over it and you're basically diffusing and blending out that blush or that bronzer, and you keep doing that until you get the result that you want. That's a good way to diffuse some of the powder, blush or bronzer that you have applied. So another question is, do I have to wear both blush and bronzer? And the answer is no. You could choose to do neither. I would not advise that. I would choose at least one or the other. Bronzer and blush, because they tend to do a little bit more of the same thing, they can kind of be used interchangeably or they can be used together. So if I'm doing a really quick look in the morning, I will not bother with bronzer. I will just simply swipe on some blush. If you're going for something a little bit more glowy, adding some bronzer is a good idea, but you can also use bronzer instead of using blush. If you just blend it up a little bit more onto your cheekbone, it kind of creates the same effect that blush does. I know a lot of guys who don't wear blush, they just wear bronzer, and it creates the same kind of effect that blush does without the pink hue. Alright, so that is it with blush and bronzer. If you have any more questions about blush or bronzer, please put them down in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. If you have any other questions, or if you have any ideas for future Makeup 101 videos, I would love to hear your ideas. Please leave those down in the comments below as well. If this video was helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'd love for you to join me and to check out some more of my videos, especially my other Makeup 101 videos. Remember, makeup has no rules. They're more like guidelines. So you do you, boo-boo. Alright, see you next time, everyone. Hey everyone, and welcome to... First off, I want to mention that cream. Words, grammar say do. That being said, a quick tip if you want to use cream powders or cream powders. Bronzer, just glitter everywhere.